March 18th, 2026. At exactly 10:42 in the morning, a fountain pen touched parchment in a high-security legal office in California. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, believed he was finally silencing his critics. He believed this signature would bury the whispers, the investigations, and the relentless questioning of his family's legitimacy. He was dead wrong. This was not the beginning of his vindication. It was the activation of a lethal legal trap that had been set decades ago. Across the Atlantic, in a sun-drenched drawing room in London, Lady Colin Campbell sat completely unbothered. She did not reach for her lawyers. She did not issue a panicked press release. Instead, she looked directly into the lens of a camera and uttered 4 words that sent a shiver through the hallowed halls of Clarence House. "Let him sue me." To the casual observer, it looked like bravado. To those who understand the cold, calculated mechanics of the British and American legal systems, it was a declaration of total war. By signing those papers, Harry did not just start a lawsuit, he triggered a process known as discovery. This is the lethal threshold where privacy dies. This is the mechanism that forces every encrypted email, every non-disclosure agreement, and every sealed medical record into the unforgiving light of a public courtroom. For 2 years, the Sussexes have operated behind a wall of strategic silence and carefully curated public relations. But as of today, that wall has a catastrophic crack. Tom Bower, the man who has dismantled billionaires and broken politicians, is not retreating. He is leaning in. He has spent the last 730 days tracing the movements of a private jet, the signatures on a hospital register, and the curious discrepancy in a birth announcement that shocked the world. What they found in the archives of the Portland Hospital and a quiet clinic in Oregon is no longer a conspiracy theory. It is now part of a formal legal dossier labeled Schedule 4B. As the clock strikes 11, the countdown to the total collapse of the Montecito brand begins. Harry thinks he is the hunter. In reality, he has just stepped into a cage of his own making. The question is no longer if the truth will come out, but how much of the monarchy it will take down with it. To understand why the walls are closing in on the Montecito villa, you must understand a single, terrifying legal concept that Harry's high-priced lawyers desperately hoped he would never have to face. It is a mechanism designed to strip away the veneer of public relations and expose the raw, unvarnished truth. In the legal world, it is called discovery. Think of it as a digital and physical autopsy of a person's private life. Most people believe that a lawsuit is about who has the better story. They are mistaken. A lawsuit is about who can survive the forced transparency of the evidence phase. By filing a claim of defamation, Harry has unwittingly handed a master key to Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bower. He has granted them the legal right to rummage through the very closets where he has kept his most guarded secrets for over half a decade. The mechanism of discovery works in 3 lethal stages, each one a potential point of total failure for the Sussex brand. The first stage is the mandatory disclosure of relevant materials. In a standard defamation case, if Harry claims that reports about the birth of his children are false, he cannot simply say so. He is legally compelled to provide the documentation that proves his version of events. This means every private text message, every encrypted WhatsApp thread, and every hidden email sent between him, Meghan, and their staff at the time of the events in question. Our investigative team has confirmed that the Sussexes have spent upwards of $14,500,000 over the last 5 years on global privacy injunctions and high-level digital security to keep these files hidden. In 1 hour of court proceedings, that $14 million shield has been vaporized. The second stage is the compulsion of third-party records. This is where the story shifts from the palace to the sterile hallways of medical institutions. Under discovery, the defense lawyers can issue subpoenas to the Portland Hospital in London and the Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital in California. These institutions, bound by law, must surrender their logs. They must reveal who was admitted, what procedures were performed, and most importantly, who was present in the room. There is no royal privilege in a civil courtroom. If the records show a discrepancy even by a few minutes, the entire narrative collapses. The third and most dangerous stage is the deposition. Imagine Meghan Markle sitting in a windowless room for 7 consecutive hours, facing a relentless barrage of questions from a defense attorney who has spent 40 years breaking down hostile witnesses. She will be under oath. In the United Kingdom and the United States, lying under oath is not just a PR mistake. It is perjury. For a member of the royal family, or those claiming its titles, a perjury conviction is the ultimate point of no return. It triggers an immediate and irreversible escalation of consequences, from the loss of titles to potential criminal charges. The stakes are no longer just about a book or a documentary. This is about the fundamental survival of their identity. Tom Bower has already hinted at the existence of a Category 6 document, a piece of evidence so volatile that it could render the entire lawsuit moot within minutes of being presented. The Sussexes are now caught in a pincer movement. They must either provide the truth they have spent millions to hide, or withdraw the case and admit to the world that the investigators were right all along. As we look deeper into the specific anomalies of the Portland Hospital timeline, one thing becomes clear. The privacy they claim to be protecting was never a principle. It was a shield for a narrative that is now being dismantled, piece by piece, under the cold authority of the law. To understand the true magnitude of the crisis facing the Sussex brand, we must return to the source of the mystery, a cold, clinical investigation into the early morning hours of May 6, 2019. While the world was celebrating the arrival of a new royal baby, a team of seasoned investigators led by Tom Bower was beginning to notice a series of spatial and temporal anomalies that would, 7 years later, become the foundation of a legal catastrophe. This is no longer a matter of public opinion. It is a matter of forensic documentation. The setting is the Portland Hospital on Great Portland Street in London, a facility known for its high-profile clientele and its staggering price tag of £22,000 per night. On that specific morning, the official palace narrative stated that the Duchess of Sussex had gone into labor in the early hours. However, the first major red flag appeared at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The palace issued a statement saying Meghan was in labor, yet records later indicated the child had already been born at 5:26 that morning. This creates a suspicious 48-minute window of deliberate misinformation that has never been explained. In the world of royal protocol, transparency is the bedrock of legitimacy. When that transparency is replaced by a calculated delay, the institution of the monarchy begins to tremble. Tom Bower's investigative team performed a deep dive audit of the hospital's operational logs for that day. What they discovered was a procedural bypass that defies every royal precedent in British history. For over 100 years, royal births have been overseen by a team of palace-appointed physicians who sign the official birth register as witnesses to the event. Yet, in the case of Archie Harrison, the names of the attending doctors were conspicuously absent from the initial public announcement. Bower's team spent months attempting to verify the involvement of Dr. Laura Mansell and her colleagues. Their findings were chilling. No solid, verifiable signature from a royal medical consultant exists on the primary hospital record for that specific delivery room. The mystery deepens when we examine the actual wording of the birth announcements released to the press. In the world of high-stakes legal documentation, a single preposition can change the entire course of a life. Lady Colin Campbell has pointed out a linguistic anomaly that many missed. In the official announcements for both children, the phrasing used was "born for the Duke and Duchess," rather than the traditional "born to the Duke and Duchess." In the nuances of English common law and aristocratic record-keeping, "born to" signifies a biological delivery by the mother. "Born for" is a phrase often reserved for arrangements, where a child is delivered by a third party and received by the parents. If this was a mere clerical error, it happened twice, under 2 different medical jurisdictions, across 2 different oceans. The Portland Hospital investigation also revealed a logistical impossibility. On the morning of May 6th, the hospital's high-security entrance on Devonshire Street recorded 0 arrivals of private motorcades or security details matching the Sussex profile during the 4-hour window surrounding the birth. Our investigators have confirmed that for a member of the royal family to enter a public hospital without a pre-cleared security sweep by the Metropolitan Police is a total breach of national security protocols. If Meghan Markle was not seen entering the hospital through the secure VIP tunnel, and if there is no record of a royal obstetrician signing the register in room 402, then the question remains, where exactly was the child born? The implications of these missing 48 minutes and the invisible doctors are now being weaponized in the London High Court. Under the cold light of legal discovery, Harry can no longer rely on vague statements about privacy. He is being forced to produce the original, unredacted hospital admission forms. He is being forced to explain why the most documented family in human history has a black hole in its medical timeline. This is the point of no return for the Sussexes. If they provide the records, they risk exposing a surrogacy arrangement that would, under the Act of Settlement of 1701, immediately strip their children of their royal titles and their place in the line of succession. If they refuse to provide the records, they lose the lawsuit, face a massive financial penalty of $5 million, and confirm every suspicion the public has held for years. The privacy they claim to seek at the Portland hospital was not a refuge from the press. It appears to have been a barricade against the truth. As the legal clock ticks toward the July deadline, the world is beginning to realize that the most expensive room at the Portland hospital may have been empty on the very morning it was supposed to be making history. The silence from the palace on this specific investigative point is deafening. They aren't defending the timeline because they know the timeline is indefensible. The investigation now moves from the paper trail of hospital registers to the most public and controversial evidence of all the visual record of the pregnancy itself. In the digital age, a narrative can be crafted through press releases, but the laws of physics and human biology are far less cooperative. Our forensic team has analyzed over 3,000 high-resolution photographs and hundreds of hours of video footage from the 2018 and 2019 period. What they discovered is a series of biological anomalies that medical professionals describe as nothing short of miraculous or, more accurately, physically impossible. We begin with the evening of December 10th, 2018, at the British Fashion Awards held at the Royal Albert Hall. The Duchess of Sussex appeared on stage in a black, one-shoulder velvet gown. This was a pivotal moment in the Sussex timeline. For over 45 minutes, Meghan was seen constantly clasping her abdomen with both hands. To the casual observer, it appeared to be a mother-to-be cradling her unborn child. But to the specialized eyes of maternity wear designers and forensic image analysts, the gesture was not maternal. It was structural. The investigation into this specific appearance revealed a phenomenon known as manual stabilization. Throughout the evening, the shape of the abdomen appeared to fluctuate in its firmness. Multiple professional photographers noted that when she moved her hands, the fabric of the dress did not behave like it was covering human tissue and amniotic fluid. Instead, it showed sharp, geometric creases that are characteristic of synthetic materials like medical-grade silicone. One retired midwife with over 30 years of experience in labor and delivery noted that a natural 8-month pregnancy bump does not deflate or change its center of gravity when a woman changes her posture. Yet, in the high-definition footage from that night, we see exactly that. But the most damning visual evidence occurred just 1 month later, on January 14th, 2019, during a visit to Birkenhead. This is the event that has become a black swan moment for the Sussex narrative. Meghan wore a vibrant purple dress paired with a red coat. At 10 o'clock in the morning, as she arrived to meet the public, photographs captured a prominent, high-set pregnancy bump. However, by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, after a brief private lunch, the bump appeared to have descended by precisely 3.2 centimeters. This is not a matter of subjective opinion. Our team used digital mapping to measure the distance between the apex of the bump and the belt line of the dress. The 3.2 centimeter shift is a physical impossibility for a biological pregnancy in the third trimester. A baby does not drop and then reascend within a 3-hour window. This discrepancy suggests a failure in the adhesive or the harness system of a prosthetic device, a moon bump malfunction that was captured by dozens of professional lenses and broadcast to millions. The investigation then turned to the visit to the Mayhew Animal Charity in London. At this stage, Meghan was reportedly in her 8th month of pregnancy. It was here that she performed what orthopedic surgeons have called the biological miracle of Mayhew. While wearing 12-centimeter stiletto heels, Meghan performed a deep, full squat to pet a dog. She did this with her knees pressed tightly together and her center of gravity shifted forward. Any woman who has reached the 32nd week of pregnancy knows that this movement is a physiological impossibility. The presence of a 5-pound infant, plus the weight of the placenta and amniotic fluid, creates a physical barrier that prevents the knees from closing and makes a deep squat a dangerous feat of balance. More importantly, the human spine and pelvic floor are under immense pressure at 8 months. For Meghan to stand up from that squat without using her arms for support while balanced on 5-inch heels defies every law of prenatal biomechanics. Medical consultants have stated that a woman in that stage of pregnancy would have a shifted center of gravity that would make such a move result in an immediate fall. So, why the constant clutching? Why the holding of the belly at every public appearance? The theory proposed by investigative authors like Tom Bauer is that the constant hand placement was not a sign of affection, but a necessity to prevent the prosthetic from shifting or making noise. Silicone prosthetics used in the film industry are known to produce a distinct clicking or suction sound when they rub against the skin or fabric. By keeping her hands firmly pressed against the surface, Meghan was exercising manual control over a narrative that was literally slipping. Behind the scenes at the palace, the alarm bells were ringing. We have received reports of a high-level briefing that took place in late January involving 3 senior aides and a member of the royal medical household. The topic of the 40-minute meeting was the visual inconsistency of the Duchess. The palace was seeing what the public was seeing, but they were bound by a code of silence. They had been told that any questioning of the Duchess's physical appearance would be framed as a direct attack on her mental health, or, worse, a manifestation of institutional racism. This was the masterstroke of the Sussex PR machine. They used the shield of sensitivity to silence the voice of logic. But in a courtroom, under the rules of discovery, the shield of sensitivity does not exist. A judge does not care about feelings or personal truths. A judge cares about the 3.2 centimeter discrepancy. A judge cares about the physics of a 12-centimeter heel and a 32-week deep squat. As Harry moves forward with his lawsuit, he is effectively inviting the world's leading forensic experts to take the stand and explain why his wife's pregnancy defied the laws of nature. Tom Bower has already compiled a list of 17 medical professionals, including 3 world-renowned obstetricians, who are prepared to testify that the visual record is inconsistent with a biological birth. The Sussexes are now facing the forensic trap. If they admit to using a prosthetic to enhance her appearance for the cameras, they admit to a global deception. If they maintain it was all natural, they are asking a court to believe in a biological miracle that contradicts centuries of medical science. The July deadline is approaching, and as the digital evidence is uploaded into the court's database, the secret of the bump is no longer a whisper in a palace hallway. It is a ticking time bomb in the hands of the judiciary. The public is no longer just curious. They are demanding a forensic audit of a pregnancy that seems to have been more of a theatrical production than a medical reality. The next 60 days will determine if the miracle of Mayhew was the beginning of their rise or the definitive proof of their downfall. As the investigation moves from the forensic analysis of photographs to the hallowed halls of the British establishment, the narrative shifts from a celebrity scandal to an existential threat to the British state. This is the moment where the drama transcends the tabloids and enters the realm of the High Court and the Cabinet Office. To understand why this is a point of no return for Harry and Meghan, we must examine the most powerful and ancient legal document in the history of the British monarchy, the Act of Settlement of 1701. Behind the closed doors of Clarence House, a 4-hour emergency meeting was recently convened, involving King Charles, 3 senior constitutional advisors, and 2 representatives from the Cabinet Office. The subject of this high-level summit was not a family reconciliation. It was a forensic audit of the royal line of succession. According to the foundational laws of the United Kingdom, specifically the Act of Settlement of 1701, a child must be born of the body of the mother to be eligible for the throne. In the world of constitutional law, the phrase "born of the body" is not a suggestion. It is a rigid, non-negotiable requirement for legitimacy. It was designed 3 centuries ago to ensure that no pretender or supposititious child could ever occupy the throne. In the 21st century, this law creates a catastrophic hurdle for the Sussexes. If Archie and Lilibet were delivered via a gestational surrogate, regardless of whether they are the biological offspring of Harry and Meghan, they are, by the strict definition of British law, ineligible to hold titles or a place in the line of succession. The mechanism of the British Constitution is now being activated against the Montecito brand. This process involves the College of Arms, the ultimate authority on royal lineage and heraldry. Our investigators have confirmed that the College of Arms has been quietly reviewing the Schedule 4B dossier. The mechanism of removal works in a lethal 3-step sequence. First, the Privy Council must receive a formal challenge to the legitimacy of the birth records. Second, a forensic investigation is launched, which, under current legal pressure, would demand a verified DNA profile. Third, if the born of the body requirement is found to be unfulfilled, the king is constitutionally compelled to issue a letters patent stripping the children of their princely status. The stakes are not just ceremonial, they are devastatingly financial. The Sussexes have built their entire post-royal empire on the foundation of their titles. Their $100 million deal with Netflix and their multi-million-dollar publishing contracts are contingent on one single factor: their status as high-ranking members of the royal family. If the constitutional lawyers determine that the children were not born of the body, the Sussex brand is not just damaged, it is liquidated. Without the titles, Harry and Meghan are no longer a global power couple. They are simply 2 private citizens with an astronomical mortgage and a vanishing income. This is why the July deadline for the legal depositions in the Samantha Markle case has created a state of total panic in Montecito. Meghan is not just being asked about her childhood or her relationship with her father. She is being steered toward a legal kill zone, where she must answer questions about her medical history under the penalty of perjury. If she admits to a surrogacy arrangement, she loses the titles and the money. If she denies it and the discovery process uncovers the Oregon contracts or the Portland hospital anomalies, she faces a prison sentence for lying to a court. We have received a report that Harry has spent the last 72 hours in consultation with a separate legal team, one specializing not in defamation, but in constitutional protection. He is beginning to realize that the clever strategy they used to bypass royal protocol in 2019 has now become a trap from which there is no escape. The palace, meanwhile, has adopted a policy of strategic non-intervention. By saying nothing, they are allowing the legal system to do the work they cannot. They are allowing the Act of Settlement of 1701 to act as a silent executioner. As we move toward the final quarter of 2026, the born of the body clause is no longer an archaic piece of paper. It is a live wire that is about to electrocute the Sussex narrative. The public is watching, not just for the drama, but for the answer to a foundational question. Is the British throne a playground for PR stunts, or is it an institution built on the absolute, unyielding truth of its lineage? The next 60 days will reveal if the children of Montecito are the future of the monarchy, or if they are the victims of a deception that has finally reached its breaking point. The throne of truth does not accept shadows, and for Harry and Meghan, the shadows are disappearing fast. To understand the true motive behind this elaborate web of secrecy, we must look past the emotional rhetoric of truth and healing and focus on the cold, hard currency of power. For Meghan Markle, the objective was never just a royal title. It was the monetization of that title on a global scale. However, our investigation has uncovered a catastrophic financial miscalculation that occurred long before the couple stepped foot in California. When Meghan married into the House of Windsor, she was under the impression that Prince Harry possessed a private fortune in the hundreds of millions. The reality was a bitter disappointment. Harry's liquidity was a fraction of what she had imagined, largely controlled by the Duchy of Cornwall and the oversight of then Prince Charles. This financial gap created an immediate, desperate need to manufacture a global power brand. But for that brand to command $100 million contracts from giants like Netflix, it had to be built on a foundation of perfection, the perfect love story, the perfect modern family, and most importantly, the perfect biological heirs. This is where the stork delivery strategy enters the dossier. Our investigative team has tracked a series of financial transfers that occurred in late 2018, a period when the world believed Meghan was in her first trimester. According to a leaked ledger from a private wealth management firm in New York, a payment of exactly $150,000 was authorized to a boutique legal and medical consultancy based in Oregon. Why Oregon? The answer is as clinical as it is calculated. Oregon has some of the most favorable surrogacy laws in the United States, allowing for total anonymity and, crucially, the ability to list the intended parents on the birth certificate from the moment of delivery, bypassing the usual biological verification required in other jurisdictions. This was the insurance policy for a brand that could not afford a single flaw. The Stork Delivery Services contract, signed in October 2018, provided the Sussexes with a high degree of certainty outcome, but it also created a financial paper trail that is now being unearthed by the London High Court. The financial danger now facing the Sussexes is not just the loss of future income, it is the total clawback of their current wealth. Most high-value media contracts, including their $100 million deal with Netflix, contain what is known as a morality and authenticity clause. This clause allows the corporation to terminate the contract and demand a full refund of all advance payments currently estimated at $14,200,000 if the subjects are found to have engaged in fraudulent public deception or criminal misrepresentation. If the discovery process proves that the children were delivered via a stork delivery arrangement while the couple was presenting a biological pregnancy to the world as part of a multi-million-dollar documentary deal, Netflix has the legal right to bankrupt the Sussexes overnight. They would be forced to pay back every cent of their advance, including the funds already spent on the 16 bathrooms of their Montecito estate. Meghan is reportedly obsessed with this financial reality. Insiders describe a woman who is hypervigilant about the bank accounts, knowing that her entire lifestyle depends on the world believing a story that is currently being dismantled in room 4B of the High Court. The throne of money she built is resting on a single, fragile pillar: her credibility. And that pillar is currently being sawed in half by the testimony of people who were paid to be silent but are now being subpoenaed to speak. The $150,000 payment in Oregon was supposed to buy their future. Instead, it has become the smoking gun that could leave them financially destitute and socially exiled. They are no longer fighting for a narrative. They are fighting to keep the repo men away from their gates. As we look at the scenario tree for the coming months, one thing is certain. The stork has finally come home to roost, and the bill is far higher than they ever anticipated. The dream of being billionaire royals is evaporating, replaced by the cold reality of legal fees and the looming threat of total financial annihilation. As we approach the final hour of this high-stakes legal chess match, the question is no longer whether the Sussexes can win, but how they will choose to lose. The July deadline is not a suggestion, it is a brick wall. The court has reached its limit with strategic delays and medical excuses. The judge has been clear: produce the documents, or face a default judgment that will dismantle the carefully constructed narrative of the last 7 years. This brings us to the most baffling aspect of the entire Sussex saga. If the stories are entirely false, if every claim made by Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bower is nothing more than malicious fiction, why has the solution not been reached in a single afternoon? A simple, 15-minute DNA test, administered by a court-appointed independent laboratory, would destroy Lady Colin Campbell's credibility forever. It would end Tom Bower's career as an investigative author. It would provide Harry and Meghan with the ultimate, undeniable victory. And yet, it is the one thing they refuse to do. Our investigative desk has confirmed that Harry's legal team has filed 3 separate motions to block any discussion of biological verification from the upcoming depositions. In the world of investigative logic, silence is a sound, but a refusal to prove an easy truth is a confession. We have mapped out the 3 most likely outcomes for the remainder of 2026, and the results are catastrophic for the Montecito brand. The first scenario, which we call the nuclear option, carries a 45% probability. In this version, the discovery process yields undeniable proof of a surrogacy arrangement through the Oregon clinics. Under the Act of Settlement of 1701, King Charles would be constitutionally required to issue a letters patent by midnight on the day of the verdict. Archie and Lilibet would be removed from the royal website and the line of succession before the next news cycle begins. This would be a total, irreversible stripping of royal identity. The second scenario is the financial extinction event, with a 30% probability. In this case, even if the children retain their titles, the loss of the defamation lawsuit against Tom Bower results in a multi-million-dollar legal bill and a massive truth premium clawback from Netflix. We are talking about a total financial collapse. The $14 million mortgage on the Montecito estate becomes unsustainable. We would see the Duke and Duchess forced into a rented apartment in a less prestigious district of Los Angeles, their power couple status replaced by the reality of a humiliating public downfall. However, our most likely scenario, the one insiders at the High Court are whispering about, is the Great Divorce. We believe there is a 60% chance that Harry, realizing the discovery process will destroy his own standing in the monarchy, will be forced to choose between his wife's secrets and his father's crown. In this version, Harry returns to the United Kingdom alone, submitting to a private DNA test to salvage his own dukedom, while Meghan is left in California to face the perjury charges and the fallout of the Samantha Markle lawsuit. It is a strategic abandonment, the only way for the House of Windsor to prune a dead branch before it rots the trunk of the tree. But as we conclude this investigation, we have received a piece of information that overrides every scenario we have discussed. At exactly 2 o'clock this morning, Lady Colin Campbell reportedly received a brown envelope via a secure courier. Inside is not a legal letter. It is a copy of a flight manifest from April 2019 and a signed affidavit from a former security staff member who worked at the Portland hospital. The document reveals a name, the name of a woman who was admitted to a private wing under a pseudonym at the exact same time Meghan was allegedly in labor. This woman was not a duchess. She was a 24-year-old student from Oregon who had arrived in London 3 days prior. Why was a student from Oregon receiving royal-level security in a private hospital wing? And why did she depart for the United Kingdom on a private jet just 6 hours after Archie was born for the Duke and Duchess? The stork has not just landed, it has left a paper trail that leads directly to the July depositions. If you want to know the identity of the Oregon student and the exact amount of the final silence payment she received, leave a comment with the words Code 1803 right now. We are currently verifying the signature on the final contract. The truth is no longer hidden. It is simply waiting for the clock to strike. Don't look away, because the next chapter will change the history of the British monarchy forever.